Hi there guys, I'm going to make a quick video on the Volvo SX grease tube that is used to maintain the gimbal bearing and grease the gimbal bearing. I think the bottom line is that these grease tubes were discontinued because the end hole that enters the gimbal housing is narrow and small and gets clogged with grease that hardens when it gets hot and then dries. Mine evidently clogged, and when I tried to grease it, it ruptured here. You can see a crack in it and started leaking grease there. And it also stripped when I was using a cheap grease gun, and it got stuck on the nipple here, and when I pulled it, the thread stripped. At one point I just used a 1/4-inch bolt to insert in here and use it as a stopper, and I used a nipple as a grease gun. I inserted the nipple in here and would grease it that way, but frankly I'm not sure grease ever made it to the gimbal housing because of the clogging that occurs here. On other videos and posts, it suggests that this tube cannot be replaced without taking the drive apart, and that's just absolutely wrong. It's actually quite simple, and I'll show you how. But before I do that, I just want to leave you with one quick idea. Before I grease mine again, every once in a while I'm going to take a coat hanger and put it through the end of this. I'll take the grease nipple off and put a coat hanger through the end of this grease tube and out the end, so that I know that there is no grease stopping the tube and that it will allow new grease to enter freely. So here's the grease tube, and basically if you push your outdrive off to the left, you can reach in here with either a long pair of needle nose like I have here, or you can come below at the very bottom, and my light's there now so I can't really put anything there to show you how that's done, but basically you just come in from below here and grab this with a pair of channel locks or these long needle nose. You grab it, and then you put a flathead screwdriver between where you're grabbing and the gimbal bearing housing here and pry it out, and it'll come right out. This is the new tube that basically has been put in, and you'll see I put a little bit of gasket sealant around the tip. The other interesting thing is that when you put it in, it's real easy to guide that tip into the bearing housing with your fingers through where this wrench is, or where this pair of needle nose is right now. The hardest part actually was putting this silly zip tie over the transom sensor wire here, and probably would have been easier to put the zip tie around this wire before the tube goes in and just leave a big loop in it, and then when you put the gimbal bearing grease tube in, just go through the center of that loop so you can cinch it up after you're finished, and it'll be a lot easier. One last thing, in order for that to seat properly, I had to put the grease nipple into the grease tube and give it a few taps before it would actually seat completely. After that point, I let it dry overnight to make sure that this gasket sealant had a chance to set up, and I just greased it 5 minutes ago, and there's no leak. This leakage of grease that you see on this side is from my other tube that was ruptured. Well, I hope that helps you guys. For 30 bucks you can get a new grease tube, and if you use a hanger to clear it from time to time, I think it'll prevent the biggest problems with the tube getting clogged and not adequately greasing the gimbal housing. And do yourself a favor and get a grease tube, a grease gun fitting like this, so that it can easily attach and unattach from the grease tube, and keep you from accidentally pulling the grease nipple out of the tube. Good luck, everybody.